All right, let's get to Bellator 78 going down in Dayton, Ohio this Friday night. Of course, you can catch all the fights streaming live on Spike.com, and then they'll air in the United States on television on MTV too. But anywhere you are in the world, you can just stream the entire card for free in high definition from the first prelim at around 6 p.m. till the main event, every fight on their website at Spike.com, which I think is very good for Bellator. Zoila Gurgel takes on Casey Noland. We do know this fight will be taking place. It's the one prelim we will be previewing here on the program. Zoila Gurgel, 11 wins, 1 loss. She is the Bellator 115-pound champion, but will be fighting at 125 pounds in this bout. She actually has not fought since March of 2011 at Bellator 35 when she picked up a decision victory over 3-3 fighter Karina Hallinen. Gurgel, 11 wins, 8 of those via decision, 2 submissions, and 1 knockout. Her 1 loss in her career comes at the hands of former Strikeforce champion Miesha Tate. She submitted Gurgel in Strikeforce in 2010. Zoila Gurgel, though, very impressive victories in her career, notably over Rosie Sexton, who's 13-2, Megumi Fuji, who's 25-2, and Jessica Penne, who's 10-1. So Gurgel handing some very tough women some of their very rare losses. She's currently riding a 6-fight win streak, 28 years old, a black belt in Taekwondo. As a matter of fact, her father was also a black belt in Taekwondo, and her husband, of course, George Gurgel, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They trained together out in Cincinnati, Ohio, so this is kind of a hometown fight for Zoila Gurgel. She has been fighting as a professional since 2009 and is 5-0 in Bellator. Her opponent, Casey Noland, is 0-1 in Bellator. She's coming off a loss in Bellator in her last bout, a split decision to Jessica I. That was in September of last year. It's been quite a while, over a year since her last fight as well, at Bellator 51. She's got 4 wins, 2 decisions, 1 submission, and 1 knockout. Noland, 2 losses, 1 knockout, 1 decision. She made her pro debut in 2010, but is 34 years old, training out of San Luis Obispo, California with John Hackelman and The Pit. Of course, John Hackelman, famous trainer of the Iceman, Chuck Liddell. Noland versus Gurgel. Bellator saying that this is not a big fight for Gurgel. It's not really a top opponent, and that's why she's not fighting on the main card. And, I happen to agree with Bellator's assessment. I still think she should be fighting on the main card, but I do believe that Noland is not quite at the same level as Zoila Gurgel, and Gurgel should pick up a victory. 8 of 11 via decision. I'd say another decision win, maybe a submission, but I'm going to give it via decision. I like Zoila Gurgel to win.
I like Zoila Gurgel to win as well. However, I disagree with Bellator's assessment to not put her on the main card.
Yeah.
She is a champion. And if anything, I was going to ask the stupid question of, is this a title fight? But of course it's not, because they haven't had a women's tournament since she won the title.
And it's also not even in the weight class that she's championing.
That's ridiculous.
It's a 125-pound fight, as I think Zoila is looking at fighting at 125 pounds
Yes.
now, and maybe won't be fighting at 115 pounds anymore. And I know Bellator was thinking about doing a 125-pound tournament for the women, and I think that they should do that. There's talk of maybe sometime in 2013. I expect Zoila to enter that tournament. And, like we said at the top of the program, the most stacked divisions for women right now, it's 125 and 135. So Zoila, I think, making the move to 125 is a smart move for, I think, a potential contract in the UFC. I mean, that's what we're talking about right now, the UFC, and it's got to be the end goal for most women and most mixed martial artists, really, in the game right now. Let's move on to the main card, the televised bout. Daniel Straus taking on Alvin Robinson. Straus minus 500, the favorite. Robinson plus 350, the dog. Of course, this one at featherweight. Straus, 20 victories, just 4 losses. Robinson, 12 wins and 6 losses. Of course, Daniel Straus won the Bellator featherweight tournament with a unanimous decision victory over Marlon Sandro in his last bout on May the 11th. He's waiting for the winner of Pat Curran versus Patricio Freire, but those guys aren't fighting. They were supposed to fight in August, but I think Curran suffered an injury, and now we don't know when Curran and Freire are going to fight. There's no date yet, so Daniel Straus deciding to stay active and taking this fight now against Alvin Robinson. He's got 13 of 20 victories via decision with 4 submissions and 3 knockouts, so maybe not the most exciting style, 13 of 20 via decision. He has lost 4 times, and 2 of those 4 times are against his potential next opponent, as he was knocked out twice, once to Pat Curran in 2009. He was submitted once, and he lost 1 decision to Patricio Freire in the final of the last featherweight tournament in May of 2011. So, Straus is looking at a potential rematch with Pat Curran, who knocked him out in 2009, or with Patricio Freire, who beat him via decision in 2011. So I think it's very interesting that, Straus is awaiting now the winner. He's going to get a rematch. He's going to get his chance at revenge and his chance also for that Bellator featherweight title. But first, he's got to fight Alvin Robinson. Robinson has 12 wins, coming off a submission victory over a 6-2 fighter named Adam Lorenz, but that was way back in September of last year, so he hasn't fought in over a year now. This will be Robinson's Bellator debut. He has gone 3-1 in his last 4 fights, but 3 of those fights took place in 2010 and just 1 in 2011, and he still hasn't fought in 2012. Robinson, though, impressive with his finishes, 11 of 12 wins via submission with 1 decision, but he's also lost 5 of 6 times via submission with 1 knockout. So he can submit you, but he's also susceptible to get tapped out. Robinson went 1-3 fighting in the UFC. He actually got a win over George Gurgel and lost to the very tough Kenny Florian, Nate Diaz, and Mark Bocek fighting in the UFC in 2007 and 2008. Robinson is 30 years old, fighting out of Denver, Colorado with Team Grudge and Trevor Whitman, and has been fighting as a professional since 2005, whereas Daniel Straus is 2 years younger, 28 years old. He's only been fighting since 2009, and he'll be fighting in his home state of Ohio. He's from Cincinnati, and of course this one taking place in Dayton. Robinson will be making his Bellator debut, as I mentioned, and Daniel Straus is 6-1 in the promotion. Straus a heavy favorite here, but I think Alvin Robinson could play spoiler in a major way. Here's a guy that's been in the cage with Nate Diaz, with Kenny Florian. He's been in the UFC.
His opponents and his training partners, right?
Yeah, training with the Grudge Training Center. Very, very tough guys over there. And the fact that Robinson hasn't fought since September of last year tells me that, maybe he's got a second job. Maybe he's not full-time MMA.
He's got injuries.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe he had an injury, but maybe he's coming into this fight better than ever. And I think that Daniel Straus, this is a very tricky fight for him, and we've seen Bellator guys before take fights, maybe in other promotions, that Bellator figured, this will be a gimme fight, they'll win. Because Bellator is banking on Daniel Straus winning. He won a tournament. He's getting a title shot. Could you imagine if a tournament winner then loses to Alvin Robinson, and then what happens to Alvin Robinson? Nothing. Bellator is banking on Alvin Robinson losing tomorrow or Friday night, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that Straus should win, but Robinson plus 350 the dog, I'm looking at him as possibly playing spoiler. I don't know about this.
Yeah, it's really a tough one to pick. Alvin Robinson has faced, in my opinion, much tougher competition than Straus. And it trains with a great training camp. However, Daniel Straus is a sit-on-you, smother-you kind of guy, and I'm going to lean towards Straus to pick up the decision victory in this, even if it's a split decision. Robinson, in my opinion, poses a lot of great threats. However, I still got Straus in this fight.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Daniel Straus as well, but, at minus 500, he's not worth any kind of money. I think he's way too heavy of a favorite, quite frankly, and I could see Robinson pulling off the upset.